Okay, I readjusted the camera a little bit. Sorry if the last video the camera angle's a little bit went weird. I mean, I'm not gonna act like I know what I'm always doing with this stuff because, I mean, I'm just doing these for fun and I try to make these as suitable as possible, but at the same time, there could be things that I am doing completely wrong that I have no idea about. So, apologies for that. But yeah, let's talk about this episode because there's a lot. There is a lot indeed. How is everyone doing today, guys? My name's C-Codes, and yeah, we got another great episode of Amphibia. This is episode 48B, If You Give a Frog a Cookie, which, that is based off the children's book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, which basically talks about how, well, if it's like if you give a mouse a cookie, then he'll want a glass of milk, and it's like, then it keeps going and going and going and going. It's like, eventually, at some point, you gotta realize, okay, maybe I gotta hold off to this. So, that is basically what happens in this episode with Anne, because at the very start of the episode, she's making cookies, which is very funny. But basically the cookies that she's baking for the Plantars because she is trying to help them cope with the fact that they've been away from Amphibia for a while, and so, obviously them being homesick, all that. And so Anne's mom warns her that they need to be able to cope without her. They just got to deal with this stuff themselves. And at first, it's like, well, you would like to support them, but at the same time, you pick up rather quickly that the Plantars kind of killed Anne a bit because they want to get home. They want to get home, and so they are willing to do anything to get home, and so in this case, guilt trip Anne so many times. But yeah, so the guilt tripping really begins when Anne gets a call from Dr. Jan, who, okay, I'm just gonna say this right now before I completely forget, is played by the voice actress for Dr. Jan is the same voice actress as Tiana from Princess and the Frog. I completely forgot her name. I hate myself. I am so sorry. I mean, these long days especially just, they drain me. So, I'm sorry if I completely forgot her name. So, yeah. Okay, so, yeah. Dr. Jan calls, Anne and says that she has a lead on how to get the Plantars home back to Amphibia, and she says that there's a scientist in the area that knows a thing about string theory, but of course Anne doesn't know what string theory means, so Jan's like, she knows interdimensional travel, basically. So Anne is like, okay, cool, I'll just take the Plantars there, and Jan's like, I wouldn't do that because I like the idea of just sort of being like, she doesn't say this one particular person is a loose cannon. She talks about how generally most scientists are loose cannons, which kind of gets me intrigued. Think about it. We do get the mad scientist in either a mad scientist or just a crazy conspirator in a lot of different shows. So I kind of like that a bit. But yeah, so Dr. Jan basically tells Anne best to just go in by herself and just see what they're talking about, and unfortunately for her, the Plantars overheard the call, so they want to go with Anne, and so they guilt trip her to doing it. So they go to Dr. Frank's brain museum. Basically, it's like a children's museum, which honestly, considering there's a children's museum in my town that I grew up in. Yeah, it's kind of on the money. It definitely resembles a lot to the children's museum that I went to. But it's this nice, fun little area. The one thing is there are apparently kids that are very, 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 very vicious if anyone has snacks on them, as we saw by a Troy Baker cameo. He played one of the employees, and he's got like a snack. He's like, if you guess it right, you get a snack, and the kid's like, and it's so freaking funny. But I mean, it makes sense considering how, I mean, little kids have been interpreted in this show. I mean, because you get the babies with Polly, so it's not, I guess it's not too far off. But yeah, so Plantars go to the director's office of the museum, and originally I thought it was going to be the blue-haired girl that we saw in the opening as well, who is voiced by Sarah Micucci. Oh my goodness, I literally screamed, like, I was so happy when I heard her voice, because like, it's like much like Wallace Shawn. She just has one of those unique voices that the second you hear she starts talking, you know who it is. The second she started talking, I was so happy because DuckTales, she played Webby in DuckTales, and I love Webby. She's one of my favorite characters in the show. So just hearing her voice, I was like, oh my goodness, they actually got her. That's amazing. I love it. It was great. I also love the fact that we got these amazing cameos. Like, I mean, Troy Baker as Grime, Sarah Micucci as Terry is her name. Terry with 2 R's and an I. Yep, 2 R's and an I. And then Keith David as freaking King Andreas. You know, we got all these great cameos. There's also a lot of other cameos that I'm not gonna list because honestly there are way too many. But yeah, so Terry, she plays the assistant to this mad scientist, Dr. Frakes, who, honestly, I mean, yes, she's a mad scientist when to the T, because, oh my goodness, she's kind of a megalomaniac in a way, because everything she talks about in terms of science is like the Franks, the Franks that, Frank's theory, the Frank's portal, and it's like basically she's doing science because she wants to get the credit for it, whereas Terry is like, I thought science was to gain knowledge, and it's like, yeah, but I'm not complaining when the fact that this lady cracked interdimensional travel for the most part, because yeah, they made a portal. Like they literally have this portal in a children's museum, which is intriguing, but honestly, again, not complaining. So the reason why and how they made this portal is because it turns out when Anne opened the the Calamity Box all the way back then, like, I think it's been like, what they say, like 5 months or maybe 6 months at this point. When she opened it all the way back then, it released this massive wave of energy. So in the trailer, we see the sky beam. That's what it was. Like, the box opened up and apparently it just released the sky beam, and it sent this wave of energy throughout the city. And so for Dr. Frakes and Terry, some of the equipment in their lab caught the energy and created a portal. And the portal nearly sucked them in, but luckily they were able to withstand the pull, except for the skip man that Dr. Frakes had. So that's how the skip man got to Amphibia, because if you remember in the Wax Museum episode, we saw the skip man, and so it kind of did raise the question of like, where did it come from, and if it was able to get here, how did it? It's like, have people gotten here before? It's like all that. So I like that connection. Like, it really does build on the fact that there's a way to travel through dimensions. So, but of course, this being like the Calamity Box itself, it really gets interesting because one is the energy was blue when it emitted throughout the city. It wasn't green, it wasn't red, it wasn't pink, it was blue. So I wonder if Anne's Calamity powers will have something to do with being able to get back to Amphibia, which will be convenient, I guess, because it's like, ooh, glad it was Anne instead of Marcy or Sasha that got stuck on Earth. But that's how they were able to create this portal, and they, despite the fact that they ran numerous tests and got numerous images, the public don't believe it because every shot that they have is blurry and stuff, except for the one that is the freaking Owl House. Like, it's so weird. Like, you literally, it's the Owl House. Like, you can't blur, no matter how much you blur that, you see the Owl House. And I love that cameo or Easter egg, because I mean, again, Dana and Matt, you know, they collaborated a lot with each other when they were making their show. So of course they're gonna have numerous call outs, shout outs to each other. But this kind of makes Owl House canon in the Amphibia universe, because if you're able to get to the Boiling Isles from this world, does it mean that Anne and Luce share the same world, or is it just that they connect? There's this multiverse, you know? It's like a lot of some fun questions, but yeah. So the Plantars obviously are super eager to see if the portal actually leads them to Amphibia, and so they pressure Anne into getting Dr. Frakes to test it out again, and so they do. And unfortunately for the Plantars, the what they see, it doesn't look anything like Amphibia. Honestly, I didn't know what it looked like. It kind of looked like this like underwater kind of world. I mean, I could be completely wrong. I don't think it's a show of the past. I mean, if it is, crazy Easter egg, but if it isn't, okay, interesting. But yeah, so basically the portal doesn't give them anything in terms of Amphibia, but then the portal closes and causes like the shockwave, this shockwave, or not shockwave, like this little like blast, and so it knocks everyone off, and it knocks the disguises off of the Plantars, revealing them to Dr. Frakes, who goes basically berserk because she's like, ooh, talking frogs. Zap, take them hostage. I'm gonna dissect you. Like, she doesn't even, I mean, she literally is talking about how Frakes, I love, she's like, I can see the headlines. Frakes frogs changes the world. And I'm like, oh no. And so, yeah, so Frakes takes the Plantars hostage and was going to dissect them, but luckily for the Plantars, Anne and Terry team up to take her down, because Terry says like Frakes may be a genius, but that doesn't give her the right to kidnap people. And I like that, or kidnap anybody, and I like that we didn't get much from her in this episode, at least up to that point. Like, she had like really a handful of lines, and really only one showed like her side of like what she really thought about in terms of like science, because like, I mean, just her saying science is the pursuit of knowledge, so it's like that. But yeah, I do like how her and Anne team up, and they go rescue the Plantars from Dr. Frakes. And even Dr. Frakes says, like, one email and your career is ruined. Are you really gonna risk your future over these frogs? And I'm just thinking, and yeah, it is a weird thing where you have the joke, you know, it's like, you know, so Terry, you know, you get that moment with Terry, you know, she's like thinking about it for a second, but then she's like, yeah, it's just like, she goes with it. Yeah, so they rescue the Plantars, and they're able to get away from Dr. Frakes because Anne had the cookies from the beginning of the episode, which, by the way, have cicadas in them. Fun fact, I was on a coach pitch team, coach pitch baseball. We were known as the cicadas. Fun little fact about me. So, yeah, so Anne grabs the bag of cookies, throws them at Dr. Frakes, and just basically says, hey kids, snacks! So, the kids maul Dr. Frakes, and that's how they escape, and Terry gives them a ride home, but they also, two things come out of it, and talks to the Plantars about them guilt-tripping her into doing all that, and so the Plantars apologize, saying that, you know, they obviously miss home, and they shouldn't use that as an excuse to manipulate Anne in the way they have. And then Terry then chimes in and says, like, she actually says she will help him make a portal. And so, I mean, makes sense, because after all, she worked under Dr. Frakes. So I can imagine that she still has a lot of the notes when it came to making the portal. So I feel like, yeah, she can definitely make a portal. Granted, I'm not sure how fast they'll be able to make the portal. So it's kind of funny. It's like a race to see who can make a faster portal. It's like can Amphibia make a portal faster than the Owl House? Or at least the functioning portal, because as we saw in Owl House, we know how fast they got that portal go, or at least working, air quotes. So now we got this. But yeah, so I like that. I like how we got Terry now. So I am intrigued to see if Terry will interact with Dr. Jan, or if we're gonna have them interact with Mr. X. I mean, I feel like, or even like the IT girls. Like, I mean, I feel like you put all of them together, like that is a pretty stellar team. Like you got, I mean, IT girls, Terry, Dr. Jan, and Mr. X. That is, yeah, you got something there. So, but for now, we don't know. We don't know. All we know is that apparently the side of the road they were driving on was completely empty, whereas the other side of the road was backed up with traffic. I mean, granted, it was at dusk, so maybe it's just like people were either leaving LA or heading into the city, or it had to have been leaving. They had to have been. So, yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much the whole episode. Again, Sarah Micucci, I love. Oh man, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that they got her for this. I mean, honestly, when it came to the look, I really didn't know who they were gonna have as the voice. Like that's probably one of the cool things about most of these characters. You look at them and you can't really tell what voices they're gonna have. I mean, usually that's the case for a lot of shows. You really can't tell the voice that they're gonna have when they start talking, but when you hear them, it still matches the voice. Like when I originally, like the first sentence with Sarah Micucci, I was like, again, I was really happy that it was Sarah Micucci, but then I'm like, wait, is this gonna work? Like, cause I mean, the look, I mean, she looked like a regular, young, honestly, in terms of age, I don't know how old she is. I mean, I feel like she must have gotten right out, maybe she's out of college or something, cause she didn't look insane. She kind of nearly looked like Anne's age for a second, but obviously she can't be because she's working at the museum, so she has to be at least out of college, or maybe she's on an no, not an internship, she's working there, so yeah, probably out of college or something. But yeah, I mean, she was great. I mean, I really can't think of a performance that was bad in this show so far. That really says something. Like, I mean, again, I really can't. Oh man, yeah, no, there's really never a bad performance. Honestly, it really is just a great series. And so yeah, all right, that's about it. So we got one episode left before the hiatus, which is going to be the Froggy Little Christmas, I believe it's what it's called. So it's gonna get fun. So yeah, is that all we got? Yeah, that's all I got. So, we'll see what happens next week. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. And if you want to subscribe. You don't have to. I'm just saying, thank you all for watching. And we will see you in the next one.